Just when you thought the best thing to happen all week would be Peyton Royce slapping the taste out of Sasha Banks' mouth, let's talk about NXT. What's going on, everybody? It's your buddy, it's Spaz Phoenix, the YWC Reality Check, and we are here tonight to talk about the June 17th edition of NXT, are we not? But I would be remiss if I didn't look back a week and take a look back at the week that I took off, and man, did I choose a bad week to take off last week. NXT, between TakeOver and last week's episode, basically successfully hit the reset button. First of all, let's talk about TakeOver. And TakeOver was an awesome show. Everything sort of served a purpose. Even the 6-woman tag that was sort of thrown together put a really good spotlight on the, I guess you could say, the mid-card of NXT's women's division. Now I'm biased, of course. My girl Shotzi got the win in that situation. But the show was good. And the show was good, and I'm not going to lie. The only thing that let it down was the title match. Was the parking lot brawl. It was very much, I said in a conversation with Jake DeMarco, it's very much, I saw what they were going for, and I like what they were going for, but they did not hit the mark by a mile. And also the Problematic Dream was in it, so that's also a thing. But man, isn't Karrion Kross looking like $1 million? Aren't we all happy about Io Shirai because big bad evil Charlotte Flair's gone? Isn't that a wonderful thing? Io Shirai winning that match in the main event was fucking superb, I have to say. Priest and Balor was good, which leads us to something we're going to talk about in a minute. But I should talk about what happened last week, because as I say, we came off the pay-per-view, went into last week's episode of NXT, and as I say, everybody's got a new direction now. Everybody's got a little bit of a new lease on life. Everybody's going off in different directions, whatever. So let's go bullet point form. What happened last week? We had Keith Lee very briefly putting Adam Cole on notice, which is fine. Lee and Yim took on the Garganos. Again, the Garganos got the win when Johnny DDT'd Keith Lee on his wife, which is lovely. The Garganos win. Priest turns face. For reasons, I'm down with it. I like Priest, and it looks like he's going to smack Cameron Grimes around for a little bit. We had a great highlight package on Io Shirai's win at TakeOver, and all the rest of the division, all the extraneous people congratulating her, specifically like Kairi Sane and Asuka, obviously, because I'm sure they're closer than a lot of the other roster, and you know, culturally, it's just a thing. I'm not trying to be like that. It's like they must be friends because X, Y, and Z, but I'm sure it helps. Io Shirai as the champion is a wicked move, and it was a whole, and I said this in my preview, they're not going to waste Charlotte losing her title in front of a fake crowd, and I was 100% wrong. We got a video package on Breezango talking about getting a little more serious. You know, we're very, very entertaining. We'll entertain you before the bell and after the bell, but in the ring, we gotta get the shit done. Which was very much something that led into tonight, because tonight we had 2 tag team title matches that we're going to talk about momentarily. Balor got rid of Cameron Grimes, sort of got him out of his life and set his sights on Keith Lee. So you sort of had a domino effect, very, very much leading into what happened tonight, where Keith Lee is setting his sights on Adam Cole, Finn Balor is setting his sights on Keith Lee. Now here's the thing I don't understand. People are mad that Balor would have a focus on Keith Lee when he came back to NXT to reestablish himself, and yeah, he's going to go for the NXT title eventually. But storyline-wise, he's had a shot at Adam Cole, and if you want to look at it from the other side of the coin, yeah, he has to go from the bottom and work his way up. So why would he not work against every other awesome talent, and why would he not go for the one title that he hasn't had? If he wants to have, you know, wrestling talks all the time about the Grand Slam champions, and why would you not try to be a Grand Slam? He even won a tag team tournament with Samoa Joe, so he can do mid-card stuff and still make that main event. Who doesn't want to see Finn Balor versus Keith Lee, which is really, really good. We had a decent match with Kai versus Catanzaro. At the end, there was some double teaming, so they finally acknowledged Catanzaro and Caden Carter's friendship, which I've seen a lot of on various social media things, and I think they'd make an amazing tag team, which is another interesting conversation to have. But I don't know that they've ever tag teamed on the show. Like, you sort of lose track of what you've seen on TV versus what you've seen elsewhere. But that's cool. Obviously, Dakota Kai has Raquel Gonzalez in her corner. As I say, we're really establishing that sort of second tier, and I would love to see Dakota Kai going for the title, but that's not happening right now. But if you look at that sort of that second tier, Dakota Kai, Reina Gonzalez, Casey Catanzaro, Kaden Carter, Shotzi Blackheart, Mia Yim, there's depth, and there's a lot of depth, and there's teams forming. So NXT, when you look at it in comparison to AEW, and I'm not even taking the shot that I typically do, AEW sort of struggles to have a women's division. They kick our asses in tag team wrestling. That's fine and wonderful, and I'm sure it'll change eventually. But we own them in, and I say we like I'm part of NXT. Fuck. But we own them in women's wrestling in the sense that they struggle to have a women's division, and NXT is on its way to having two. That's a cool thing. That's a good thing. And I mean, for us, I have to stop saying us. For NXT and anybody that follows the NXT brand like I do, my biases are right out on the table for everybody to see. You need to get different things from different shows, if that's a thing. I'm not saying that NXT has a great tag team division. They need to step it up in that regard, and I think they took a small step in that tonight. But if we have a situation on a Wednesday night where if you really love women's wrestling, you go to NXT, and if you really love tag team wrestling, you go to AEW, that's not the worst thing in the world, is it? I mean, before WWE brought the Cruiserweight Championship back, if you wanted high-flying, like, you know, cocaine matches, as they're called, which I really don't like, you went to old school, back when it was good, Impact Wrestling, and you watched the X Division. Now, most of the X Division is in WWE now, so that doesn't... But you get different things from different shows, and I don't think there's much wrong with that. Speaking of the Cruiserweight division, you gotta talk about the new Cruiserweight champion, do you? El Hijo del Fantasma. Oh, wait! Santos Escobar. Fucking brilliant. He came out to celebrate his win. Drake Maverick came out to celebrate with him. It looked like it was going to be a babyface moment. The other two masked men came out and they were going to attack them, except El Hijo del Fantasma turned and unmasked, and the other two unmasked, and of course it was Mendoza and Joaquin Wilde, because who else was it going to be? And he renamed himself as Santos Escobar, and people are freaking out about the name. I don't get it. This was cool. This was really cool. You got the ultimate babyface. People still hate on Drake Maverick. What the fuck ever. But you've got the ultimate babyface, not only in real life, but also in NXT. You got the quintessential, you know, guy that's just happy to be there, like the positive side of that. And you got Santos Escobar, who, like, was shown on TV to be spitting on his own heritage and bringing some people along for the ride and doing some things with some heelish means and all that sort of thing. It's good. Luchadors... I like luchadors, don't get me wrong. Even something like the Lucha House Party. The Lucha Brothers over at AEW are good. Rey Mysterio obviously has his place in history. I've had my issues with him at some points. Luchadors are great, but it's hard, especially with wrestling fans, especially with North American wrestling fans, as they are right now. You need to connect with the character, and I'm sorry, as much as it goes against all the traditions and all the sacred stuff of being the masked star, it's just easier. Even if you hate him, even if you take off the mask so that you can say I hate you because you took off the mask, there's an investment there, and that it's good. It's interesting. And like, the Cruiserweight title is a mid-card title, let's not get it wrong. If this was happening in the main event, I don't know that I would feel the same way about it. I have to be clear about that. But it's good as a mid-card story. I guess you could say almost third-card story, because the North American Championship is seen in higher regard than the Cruiserweight Championship. But like, that only gives it more room to breathe, more room to grow. I'm kind of bummed, if I want to take a negative out of this, I'm kind of bummed that Joaquin Wilde is there being like a goober, being a stooge for Santos Escobar. Raul Mendoza I wasn't really invested in the first place, so this is a chance for me to see him, you know, sort of work within somebody else's faction. Very much a Austin Theory or or Angel Garza type situation. But Joaquin Wilde, because I did know him as DJZ in Impact, and I was kind of interested to see what he would do in NXT, and it looked like they were going to bring in some of the wacky DJ stuff that he did over, and that could have been a lot of fun. So it's sort of like bringing somebody that I wanted to see down, and it's bringing somebody that I didn't care very much about up, and you've got this leader that had this babyface run through this whole tournament and made himself out to be an asshole after he won. It's cool because the turn didn't come in the finals of the tournament. So the match itself had a clean victory, and he's a believable champion because he won the right way. He revealed that he's an asshole, and he revealed that he's got all this help after the fact. And I think that's how you build a strong heel champion. I don't think the main roster handles that very well. And then, much like Balor disposed of Grimes and moved on to better things, Cole disposed of Dexter Lumis. Velveteen Dream got into the mix, but the other members of Undisputed Era went to go feud with them. So I guess Dexter Lumis moves up to the mid-card, Velveteen Dream moves down to the mid-card, and that's a plus, isn't it? Look, he was Negan. Those of you that have been following this channel long enough know that there was a brief period of time that me and my buddy Bird, we reviewed Walking Dead on this channel. I am one of the few hangers-on that still loves Walking Dead. Is it falling off a little bit? Sure, but so is wrestling. So when Velveteen Dream, who has no business being anywhere near a title picture, no interest being anywhere near a title picture, in a match that wasn't ultimately that great and could potentially have done some really, really shady shit in his real life, comes out dressed as one of my favorite current television characters. He can fuck off, is what it is. But none of that matters because Roddy and Bobby Fish chase off Dexter Lumis and Velveteen Dream like the bitches that they are. And Adam Cole's celebrating by himself when the lights go out. There's a spotlight. There's no Karrion Kross, but there definitely is Scarlett, and I'd much rather look at Scarlett. Let's be real. She brings out the, everybody starts chanting TikTok and fall and pray and all that sort of thing. The whole chanting of TikTok, I'm going to make the most minute nitpick possible, and then I'm going to tell you that it doesn't even matter. Because it would be awesome if she had brought a clock to the ring and dropped a clock in the ring. But she didn't. She did the whole, it's a little bit cliche, but she brought out the hourglass with, the sands of time and all the metaphorical stuff that can go into that. The only reason I say bring out a clock instead is because people are already doing the TikTok thing. Now, I'm going to pull that back almost immediately, because if they did a clock instead, it would have gone back to like Boogeyman territory, and the symbolism of that hourglass is so much better. And when we get onto that symbolism tonight, it'll be even better. But you're chanting TikTok at a time-telling device that doesn't tick, nor does it talk. The stare down between Scarlett sort of being the Silver Surfer role, the harbinger of things to come, was a really cool thing. And as other podcasters will tell you, it was a lot better than Adam Cole wins a match and Karrion Kross just comes and looks at him for a bit. I think of Adam Cole versus Tommaso Ciampa right before their last match on the show, and it was just the two of them staring really awkwardly at each other for a little too long. And I mean, it's not good, is it? It's like Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar having the tug of war with the belt, and I don't want to see shit like that on my show. Now, before we get into this week's show, I do want to tell you, I do want to send a quick shout out to those of you that joined us on the premiere in the chat for Flix Fix this past Tuesday. Right now, Kristen and I are working through the Alien trilogy, so the second one, Aliens with the S, went up on Tuesday. You can catch the replay of that on this channel, obviously, or on any of your podcasting platforms. Nice to have a little bit more conversation in the chat while these things are going on. 9 o'clock Toronto time on Tuesdays is when those videos are going to keep going out, because it seems to be the time slot that works, and most of all, it's the time slot that works for me. When I run out of stuff that I'm reposting, because you guys know I was pulling up a lot of sort of archive stuff and trying to fix up the audio and all that sort of thing, it may go at some point to an every other week schedule. I don't know quite yet. That's fine. As I say, if you're listening to this in an audio platform right now, you want to find me on YouTube, look up Spaz Phoenix. If you're watching me right now, pretty sexy face in the gimmick hat, you want to find me in an audio platform, you go to any audio platform that you choose and search Spaz Phoenix Podcast. It's all good. Find me on Twitter at SpazPhoenix1. Find me on Instagram at SpazPhoenix. And we can carry on to this week's NXT. This week's NXT, as they always do, starts with a recap of last week's NXT. But you know what? We just did that, so we don't need to do it again. We're going to start right off the bat. We know that this show tonight is going to be bookended with 2 tag team title matches. So we're going to start with the guys. This got my hopes up for later on, which were a little bit dashed. We're going to talk about it when we get there. But it's Imperium versus Breezango, and Jesus Christ. Breezango, dual kings of the cosplay, coming out as a remixed version of Imperium. To the remix of the Rachmaninoff piece. I've probably got that wrong. Somebody correct me down in the box below. Coming out dressed as them, as Fabio and Marsupial as Imperium was really fucking good. And this was a good match for Imperium. Barcel and Eichner are really good, and I've said this before. They have more personality being part of this faction, but the leader of this faction is not there. So right now it feels like they're trying to hold up the faction, which pulls back the identity, even though they're the champions, which is a really terrible thing to say. But it's really easy to care or not care about these two, other than the fact that they're great and they're going to put on a good match. We went over again on commentary, and this is getting a bit dated, the way that Fabian Eichner wanted so badly to be in WWE that he lost all that weight to go down to 205 for the Cruiserweight Championship, the Cruiserweight Classic, which, I mean, look at him now. He's definitely not 205. He's definitely not a Cruiserweight. But you need to reference something a little more recent, like the fact that he's the current NXT tag team champion. Like, he's in NXT representing NXT UK. Like, he's in NXT with his partner Marcel Barthel, and they're representing this other faction, and their leader is chomping at the bit to get back to America to face Finn Balor. Like, you can do a lot more. And yes, I'm being the lame guy that wears the NXT shirt while reviewing NXT. It's fine. For people listening in an audio platform, you don't care in the slightest. So let's go. We did the cosplay thing. That was cool. The remixed intro was even better. But double team attack by Imperium, start right hands by Barthel in a mud hole, and a PK to the back by Barthel. Body shots and a jawbreaker and some right hands by Breeze. Arm drag into an armbar by Fabian. I can read my own writing, I promise. Inside out crossbody by Breeze. Rocket launcher into the plexiglass by Imperium was a nice thing. I like the fact that we're not pretending the plexi isn't there. All the heel wrestlers are like, well, it's here. I can use it as a weapon, so I'm going to use it as a weapon. That's across the board. Because weapons are only weapons if you pick them up and use them. That's one of the things in wrestling. You can't hit somebody with the steps, but you can hit somebody into the steps. Same goes for the ring post. Same goes for choking somebody on the ropes, etc. So if the guardrail has been expanded to include the plexiglass, which isn't padded like the guardrail is, why would you not take advantage of that? And across the board, I don't have much nice to say about SmackDown or Raw other than seeing Sasha Banks get the taste slapped out of her mouth, which was awesome. We're going to get to it later on. It's fine. I'm good. I don't need therapy. I'm fine. But the usage of the plexiglass has been fun at times. Now, at times, it just makes it look like a hockey match. I'll admit that. But when they use it well, it's really good. Snapmare and an overhead keel up by Barthel. Breeze tosses out Barthel over the top rope. A top knee drop by Fandango. Power slam by Fandango. A tornado DDT and a suicide dive as we go to commercial break. Coming back, there's a snap suplex by Breeze, an enziguri by Barthel, and a suplex, an enziguri by Breeze, because anything you can do, I can do better. Slingshot elbow drop slingshot elbow drop combination by Breezango, boot by Barthel, super kick by Breeze, last dance by Fandango, which is nice. We haven't seen that in a while. For reasons, Malcolm Bivens's guys and Lorcan and Birch brawl on the outside. There's a really messy looking DDT by Fabian, and Imperium get the win. I'm not necessarily disappointed that Imperium lost, because they need something to do. And Breezango, I don't keep track of what everybody weighs. I would love one or both of Breezango to sort of lend themselves to the cruiserweight division a little bit. Let Breeze have a really, really good match with Santos Escobar and put him over a little bit or something like that. I'm not saying I want them to be jobbers, but it doesn't... They're a fun team, and they're a great team, and they know exactly what their value is and what they can give to a show. And that doesn't need to be exasperated by necessarily a title win, and I don't know what you do with Imperium if they don't have those belts. We go to Tom Phillips sort of FaceTiming with Velveteen Dream, having a really lame interview, when Dexter Lumis drops a photo on Velveteen Dream's couch, and it's a picture of them as tag team champions, and Dream denies the idea. Dream's a solo act, which means definitely Dream's not going to be a solo act, and they're probably going to put the titles on Velveteen Dream and Dexter Lumis, and that's when you can shoot me in the fucking head. Damian Priest had a match, which is good, against Killian Dane. And when I saw that, I thought it was a typo, or I thought it was going to be, hey, he was supposed to have a match with Killian Dane, but then here comes Cameron Grimes to fuck with him. But no, Killian Dane was on the show tonight. And it was, I don't want to make fun in these COVID... Okay, pause for a second. In these COVID times, in these violent times, in these truculent times, no matter where you are in the world, want to put it out there to you guys one more time. Hope you guys are doing okay. The world's kind of fucked up right now. If nothing else, come hang out with me for a little while. Watch me trip over my words and try to assure you that I can speak, I swear. We're going to get through this. I'm not going to run through it every single week. You guys know what's going on in the world. I hope you guys are all, no matter who you are, no matter where you are, I hope you're all doing great and wonderful. But that being said, and that aside, I'm not making fun of the current global situation, but I looked at Killian Dane, I'm like, where the fuck have you been, bud? It's really good. Collar and elbow tie up and a side headlock by Dane, and this is going back to the old rivalry that they had when they were both trying to get their hands on Keith Lee in the North American Championship. So there is a little bit of storytelling there, even if it is a little bit of a replay. Collar and elbow tie up and a side headlock by Dane and a shoulder tackle. Dane tries to go for a couple of tackles off the ropes. Damian Priest goes for a leapfrog. And almost right at the beginning of this match, he goes for the leapfrog and he immediately acts like he's tweaked his back. And this becomes the story for the rest of the match. And this is brilliant. Showing some, I don't want to say showing some weakness, but definitely showing some vulnerability, showing some less than 100%-ness from Damian Priest. Sort of solidifying that he's the babyface now. I don't think they necessarily needed to do this. You could just say that he was still feeling the effects from his great match with Finn Balor, because he did have that wicked... Oh, I didn't talk about that. The wicked spot that they had at the end of this match where he tries to do something on the apron. Balor tossed him off the apron onto the steel steps back first. That must have wrecked. You could have just gone based on that, but he looked like he was all ready to go in this match, and then they had a moment in the match to draw your attention to why he's so weakened in the back, which is good. Toss in a corner splash by Dane, elbows by Priest, body shots by Dane, a second rope leg drop, and he works the back. Modified cross faces by Dane, a headbutt, and 3 back suplexes. Dane eats the turnbuckle chest first. Both men trade some punches. There's a second rope forearm by Priest, a flying elbow attack. A divide by Dane, that wicked running... excuse me. Not even drinking anything fizzy. That's just gross. That wicked running low crossbody that Killian Dane does looks like it would cut you in half because he's a big dude. But an adrenaline rush to Damian Priest. He hits the cyclone kick and he manages to hit the reckoning on Priest for the win. When we come back from commercial break, we see that Killian Dane didn't leave the ring right away and that he was staring through the plexiglass, and because of the way things reflect off the plexiglass, you don't see what it is right away, but you do eventually see that it is Robert Stone, and Robert Stone is not having a good time. He looks like he's on about the 5th week of a bender. The people on commentary, it's weird, because not all of them are even there. I mean, I know Beth Phoenix and Mauro Ranallo are doing this via audio or however they're doing it, but they said, oh, I talked to Robert Stone earlier today and he smells like he hasn't showered in a week, and he does. What's it, Robbie E, if you remember Robbie E from Impact, and I'm going to say from Impact because there's a couple different Impact stars on NXT now. If you remember Robbie E, you never would have predicted him becoming Robert Stone, because Robert Stone is he's playing absolutely pathetic, but he's doing it so well. He's the guy that's got this big, representation firm, the Robert Stone brand, and the Robert Stone brand was based on one client that left him. But he gets a cheap shot through the plexiglass by Dane, and he's just laid out because that's what his life is right now. The next match, not that I care about the match at all, is Xia Li versus Aaliyah. Aaliyah, my hometown girl, but NXT has gone to great lengths to convince me that they're never really going to do anything with her. But she's been trying to get into the Robert Stone brand where Chelsea Green was, and she goes to tend to Robert Stone, and he's a mess, and he's clearly... Now, I don't know how they square doing this with Robert Stone looking like he's been on a bender with what they're doing with Jeff Hardy on SmackDown. WWE between these two brands is walking sort of a weird line with the substance thing. But Aaliyah and Xia Li has a match, and Aaliyah sort of props Robert Stone up in the corner because she wants him to represent her. And ultimately, Aaliyah wins because Robert Stone is sort of swaggering around the apron all out of it and shit, and projectile vomits at Xia Li, and Aaliyah goes for a roll-up that doesn't work and then rolls her up again. So win by vomit. And I will say, and we're going to get into another segment in just a second, but I will say that not all of it's good. Some of it is really lame. But to those of you out there that say NXT takes itself way too seriously and never tries to have any fun, I give you Breezango coming out as the Imperium remix. I give you the Newly Bros game. I give you low card women's division win by vomit. And Aaliyah gets a win, so that's all right too, isn't it? And I give you Undisputed Era therapy for Roderick Strong, and they bring him to a therapist, and they talk about how he's scared of trunks now, and they try to put him in a trunk because it's like immersion therapy, whatever, and he runs away. And I like the Undisputed Era. I really do. But this was a miss. But it's okay, because we got 2 more segments of Undisputed Era stuff to go. We go to the back, because obviously the therapy thing was filmed earlier in the day. Adam Cole's being interviewed in the back about the challenge from Karrion Kross. Keith Lee comes up behind him to threaten him as well, so everything's all going wrong for Adam Cole. And then Lee, just to get his point across, he smashes the hourglass. Now, the hourglass... Here's where I think they missed a trick, and here's where I think they missed what could have been a very cool step. We're going to get into a whole bunch of really cool shit that I really like in just a second, but here's where they missed a trick. Because the hourglass was the marker of the Harbinger, like I said earlier, Scarlett being the Harbinger of Karrion Kross, and that was the symbol of Karrion Kross, and that time was almost up and whatever. So for Keith Lee to smash that, they should play that off at some point, that Karrion Kross and Scarlett are offended by that, because that was their threat to Adam Cole. If Keith Lee comes and smashes that, then he thinks he's a bigger threat than they are. So Karrion Kross should go prove Keith Lee wrong. Also, I'd really like to see Karrion Kross and Keith Lee have a match, because I think Scarlett and Mia Yim on the outside would be fucking hilarious. Moving on. Adam Cole, then, he's sick of all this, comes to the ring, talks about the fact that he's been a champion for 381 days. He's never taken it for granted. He's the best champion in the business, and it's amazing how people think they can just throw their name in the hat. Talks about Karrion Kross a little bit, but then he turns his attention to Keith Lee, talks about, it's about time that I was a double champ. I was the first North American champ. I was the best North American champ, and now I'm the longest reigning NXT champ. Keith Lee comes out. Keith Lee doesn't get a word in edgewise before Gargano comes out and says, oh, look at this cool stare-down movement, but I don't care about stare-down moments. I care about results, and I beat you last week. I should have the chance to be a double champion, and myself and Candice should be the first, title couple of NXT. Gargano and Lee bicker a little bit. Keith Lee mentions what happened last week with Gargano DDTing him onto Candice, and he cared more about Candice than Gargano did. And then he gets in this really cheesy one-liner about, when I was carrying Candice around, she said that's all the action she's had in a while. Now, I like Keith Lee. This is not me taking the piss out of Keith Lee, but that was really lame, and he looked like he was really proud of it, and I could have done without that, I'm not going to lie. And then out comes Balor. This whole segment was a flex. It was a flex that NXT didn't have to do. Because last week, as I say, they set up the possibility of Keith Lee versus Finn Balor and Karrion Kross versus Adam Cole, and Gargano's just there because he's a dick, and I like Dick Gargano. It's good. It's the same reason I liked One Last Beat and everybody else didn't. Because you're all wrong. I'm just saying it. If you don't love... The parking lot brawl thing with Problematic Dream and Adam Cole was bad. One Last Beat was epic, and if you disagree with me, you're wrong. But, I mean, they had this match set up over here, this match set over here. The way they brought all this together and threw Gargano in the mix for the fuck of it was an absolute flex by NXT, because Balor comes out and says, you can all stop being marks for yourself. I've held titles all over the world, but not the North American champ. And then he just sort of steps past Gargano, telling him, I'm not like you. I don't wait in line. He says he's going to take out Keith Lee, and then he's going to take out Adam Cole. And then Cole reminds him that he just beat his title reign, and it's all wonderful, wonderful stuff. Regal comes out. Now. I know that I spoke about this last time I talked about NXT. I know that the Fyter Fest pay-per-view for AEW that was supposed to happen over in the UK, which is really, really unfortunate because of the current global situation, and they're stretching it over 2 weeks of weekly programming, which is fine, which is their choice, which is whatever, but it's also so that they can win and twist the knife a little more in the ratings. So if this is NXT's response, I'm okay with that, because William Regal comes out and says next week we are getting a triple threat match for the North American Championship, and it is going to be Keith Lee, and it is going to be Johnny Gargano, and it is going to be Finn Balor fighting for the North American Championship. But also, the winner of the North American Championship match next week not only becomes champion, but goes on to July 8th, I think, to face Adam Cole in a champion versus champion winner takes all match. That's a flex, and I like that a lot. And I can't help but think that they're going to redo Balor and Cole. No disrespect to Keith Lee, no disrespect to Johnny Gargano, obviously, because I love Dick Johnny Gargano. It's great. I can't help but think, remember the last time that they tried to go and they tried to like really, really stack a show? You had Baszler and Ripley, and you had Balor and Cole. Balor and Cole opened that show because it went to a little bit of a schmoz ending. I don't think this one will, and I think maybe they try to give it a little bit of a Charlotte treatment, put their titles on a main roster WWE guy, big name like Finn Balor. To see Finn Balor in a couple of weeks walk out with 2 belts over his shoulders and be, I guess, the champ would be really cool. I don't know what you do here. Do you do Gargano Cole again? Probably not. Do you do Keith Lee versus Cole? Keith Lee versus Cole is probably what a lot of people want. I gotta say, I want them to do another round of Balor versus Cole. But that being said, if they do Balor versus Cole, that should be on a takeover, shouldn't it? I don't really know. Anyways, we come back from commercial break, and Candice LeRae tells off Keith Lee and blames him for the injuries that she sustained last week, and then Mia Yim shuts her up because that's what Mia Yim does, and it all works. And there you go. How many women's things have we had tonight? We have Mia Yim and Candice. That's a feud. We've got, what did we talk about earlier? I mean, the lower part of the card is Aaliyah versus Xia Li. Let's be real. But what's right in the middle? What's right on that middle line, that thin blue line of the mid-card, the solid mid-card of NXT? Not only the solid mid-card, but potentially the women's tag team division that could be revived in NXT, because they did it with the Cruiserweight title. They could do it with these titles too. But that's not going to happen because one of those belts is on Sasha Banks, and we're going to talk about that later. It's fine. Moving on. Caden Carter with I can speak, I swear. Caden Carter with Casey Catanzaro in her corner versus Dakota Kai with Raquel Gonzalez obviously in her corner. And apparently they're calling Raquel Big Mama Cool now, or Mommy Cool now. I could do without that. I'm not going to lie. Carter's great. Catanzaro's great. they would make good women's tag team champs as well. Anyways, double leg by Carter, mounted punches and a crossbody, springboard low drop kick by Carter, forearm, scorpion kick by Kai. Both women trade some shots for a bit. Drop kick by Carter, victory roll through super kick by Carter, high knee by Carter, and a suspend. Oh, this was beautiful. This was the closest thing I could possibly imagine to a springboard pedigree. She sort of had her in the middle of the ropes, like Randy Orton does for a suspension DDT, except head between the knees, jumps down, and just drives her face into the mat from the suspended position. That needs to be a finisher. Raquel manhandles Catanzaro on the outside for the distraction. Kai gets some weird octopus stretch thing, which I think she called... No, chiropractor was her finishing maneuver, not her submission maneuver. Don't listen to me. It's fine. Kai gets the win, sets up a pretty obvious women's tag team match for next week, but it's good. And like I say, they haven't done much with it on screen, but Kaden Carter and Casey Catanzaro are both athletic as fuck. Anybody that follows anything that they do on social media knows that they're like thick as thieves in real life, which always helps. Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez are definitely doing that Shawn Michaels Diesel thing, except a much lesser degree. Dakota Kai's broken herself off from feuding with Tegan Nox because Tegan Nox is doing the tag team with Shotzi Blackheart now, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. It's all good. This well-defined mid-card area that they have is really, really cool. In the back, we see Scarlett stumbling across the smashed hourglass, and then you see, I guess, Karrion Kross's feet. We just see boots. It's fine. We see a video package for Mercedes Martinez, and she's coming back soon. So, as I say, at the top, you've got SHIRAI, you've got Ripley, you've got... I don't know. Maybe Tegan Nox. I don't really know. But then you've got Mercedes Martinez. You've got all these ladies in the mid card / tag team division. You got your people like Xia Li and Aaliyah sort of at the bottom. It's all good. Somebody tell me, and I should know this, but I don't, and I should have looked it up, but I didn't. Does Scarlett wrestle? Because throw her in too. Shotzi, my girl, is going to do some things. It's fine. Everything is good. I did see on Twitter some chick with really bad makeup debuted on AEW. I guess when you don't have a proper division, do a lot of shock value. The most valuable person in their women's wrestling division on AEW can't wrestle right now. And is learning all her tricks from our champion. I'm just saying, they happen to be married, it's fine. Or dating, or whatever the hell they're doing. Pretty lame spot in the back where we find out that Cameron Grimes has cut Damian Priest's tires. It's a Cameron Grimes story. What do you want? Bronson Reed takes on Leon Ruff, and when I say takes on, body avalanche, senton, top rope splash. Reed gets the win. Reed remembers getting destroyed by Karrion Kross when he was trying to send his message to Tommaso Ciampa, calls out Karrion Kross for next week. So, I mean, he's going to die, but I like Bronson Reed. It's fine. And then he finds Leon Ruff, because Leon Ruff is literally squashed and dead on the outside of the ring area, and literally carries him out. Because he's a good dude, and it's one of those, is he going to, like, run him into the steps to make some kind of message to Karrion Kross? No, he just picks him up and carries him to the back, which is cool. It's a different sort of sportsmanship than just sort of picking him up and shaking his hand, but it's fine. Santos Escobar comes out to cut a promo with Wilde and Mendoza on either side of him, talks about how Phantasma was the greatest luchador ever, and all the people saw was the mask for 20 years. When I came to NXT, when I knew I was going to have this big of a stage, I knew it had to end. I knew they had to see me, because I'm a leader. And then he turns to Wilde and Mendoza, and he says, I'm going to make you into leaders too, because I'm a leader of leaders, and we will leave a legacy. Maverick comes down right in the middle of his promo, starts taking the piss out of him. He's like, you know what? Maybe I got more guts than brains, but that's fine. And he rushes the ring. They beat the crap out of him 3-on-1, and he gets a phantom driver through the table. Now, to all of you people out there who are still really, really obsessed and wringing your hands over whether Maverick was actually fired, or whether it was a storyline, or whether we're allowed to enjoy this or not, or was he really fired? Was he never really fired? He wasn't really put through a table either. It's fine. It's wrestling. Moving on. Sasha and Bayley, who are now apparently referred to as the Golden Role Models, which is just self-indulgent enough to be a believable Sasha Banks thing. I could do without, when they were hyping up this match throughout the night, I could do without them constantly referring to them as NXT legends. Because, like, just no. Taking out Tegan and Shotzi, and I thought this was going to be a squash. It was actually a decent match, and they only won because they cheated. Moving on, Knox and Banks start off the match as a collar double tie. Can't read my writing. Takedown by Banks, trip by Knox, takedown by Shotzi, and some shots from Bayley. Boot by Shotzi, a back elbow and a knee by Bayley. As we go into the commercial break, this match was also disappointingly short. I gotta put that in there. Neck bites by Bayley, uppercuts by Knox and a back elbow, headbutt by Knox, corner avalanche and a facebuster by Shotzi, followed by a suplex. A Meteor on the outside by Banks, which, I mean, here, have my crotch in your face and try not to smell the fish. Moving on. She fucks up the second one in the corner. Watching her sort of, like, crash in the corner made me smile. I can't read my writing. Head scissors by Shotzi and double cannonballs in opposite corners by Shotzi and Knox was a nice touch. Cannonball by Shotzi and a cannonbore, I guess I should say, for Tegan Knox. Knox chokeslams Sasha out of the ring onto Bayley. That was fun. I like that a whole lot. Suicide crossbody by Shotzi on both of them, followed by a sliced bread. Banks and Knox trade some shots, and there's a dropkick by Shotzi. And here you go. Here you go. Here's your Bret Hart Undertaker moment. Shotzi Blackheart broke the Banks statement. Oh yes, and if I want to be really cliche, I could say, and made a statement of her own. And then Bayley comes in with a chair, there's shenanigans, and they manage to retain. And that's really, really ridiculous, because this was, despite having Sasha Banks in it, a really, really good match, and Shotzi and Tegan made a good showing of themselves. People are going to argue with me on that and be wrong, it's fine. But then the show closes for reasons, with Io Shirai coming down to the ring and beating the crap out of your current reigning defending women's tag team champions, Sasha Banks and Bayley, because she can. 2-on-1. It's wonderful. She sits in the center of the ring screaming, "This is my NXT." And that's what I think about Sasha and Bayley being on the show. This is what I think of them retaining their titles. This is why I want them to lose to the Iconics on Monday. Not only because I think the Iconics are way underrated, but I want to hear Adam Wilborn and What Culture do the Iconics thing, because I'm that obnoxious. It's fine. You know what else is fine? Look at next week's show. And I've used the word flex quite a bit in this particular review, but Reed versus Cross, which is going to be a squash, but it's going to be a fun squash. Priest versus Grimes, we're going to dispose of Grimes once and for all, I hope. And then triple threat for the North American Championship between Keith Lee, Finn Balor, and Johnny Gargano, with the winner going on to face Adam Cole in the main event of a show that's going up against a pay-per-view. And if they win the ratings on July 8th, I'm calling that my win for 2020. That's all I got to say about that. Anyways, I have rambled on for far long enough, and I'm sure a lot of people think I've been way more than enough of in the obnoxious category. So, I've been Spaz, your YWC Reality Check. Subscribe up there, talk down there, start a conversation. Keep all these conversations going. Don't be a stranger. I will talk to each and every last one of you later. But for right now, oh baby, I am tagging out.